guys, welcome back. So in my last video I mentioned that I had a couple of booktube ideas to share with you. So this is the first of them, and I think in my last booktube video I talked about my top 5 or 6 favorite nonfiction books that I had read more recently. Especially in 2019, I think more the back half of it. So today I'm going to talk about something a little different. We're going to go fiction, but I'm not really going to review specific books. I want to talk about my current obsession with the subgenre Aussie Noir, also sometimes called Outback Noir, or there's some other ones, maybe I think Red Earth Noir maybe is one I've seen pop around. But I personally I just tend to refer to it as Aussie Noir. Mostly because a lot of the books, while several are set in rural outback Australia, so the Outback Noir sort of title can be fitting, not all of them do. A lot of them do have a lot of basis in some of the major cities, like, Melbourne or Sydney, or even more minor cities, kind of going up North Queensland. A lot of these books kind of venture into those areas as well. So for me, Outback Noir is really more specific to those very rural country settings, where Aussie Noir is kind of more all-encompassing of all Australian settings. Now, the tricky thing is that for me, when I think of the genre, I think of those stories that do center in Australia. But I'm finding that sometimes when you look at lists of books that are kind of considered to be part of this subgenre, they'll include books that are simply written by Australian authors, excuse me, and maybe fit the sort of mystery thriller, checkbox, but they may be set somewhere entirely different. And for me, that doesn't fit what I'm looking for out of the genre. So I'll tell you about one book I read that kind of blurs the line a little bit, but is in a lot of the lists. So I had read it, so I'll share it with you. But I didn't go into, and I haven't read a lot of the books that are often recommended, but just don't fit, my idea of what should be in there. So the first author that I want to talk about, she's very popular, and you very well may have already heard of her and or read some of her work. That's Jane Harper. Now, she has a series. I read her series first, and there's 2 books in the series. The Dry and the Force of Nature. It's called the Aaron Falk series. He's the main protagonist in the stories. The first one is set in rural country town Australia. The second one is set more in the edges of Melbourne. It's not outback as you think of, as far as the Red Earth desert scrub brush or type of setting. That's not where this is. So again, Aussie Noir seems like it's more fitting. But anyways, really good series. I enjoyed it a lot. Jane Harper is exceptional at pulling you into the world. You feel like you can smell and feel the setting that these characters are in. So she's really good to sort of that ambient setting creator. And she has another book, The Lost Man. It's a standalone book. This is the one that seems like it's the most popular. In fact, in 2019, it was a Goodreads Choice Award nominee. It did not win, but I believe it made it to the top 10. So I know a lot of people read it, and if you did, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I liked it, not as much as the books in her series. So if you liked The Lost Man or you were a little iffy on it, maybe try The Dry. I preferred The Dry over Force of Nature of the two. So maybe check those out. The other author that I found, and I really like her, I have kind of a weirdness going on with her though, but it's Candace Fox, and she has this really good series called the Crimson Lake series. There's 3 books in it, Crimson Lake, Redemption Point, and Gone by Midnight. In fact, excuse me, Gone by Midnight is the only physical copy of any of these books I own. And it's only because I was in Australia last year and it was out in Australia, but it hadn't been released in the US yet. So I went on a hunt to find it and had to bring it home. In fact, it was just released here in the US, I think in January. So, and I got it like last June. So yeah, the only one I have. But she again is really good at creating an environment that you kind of get lost in. But for me with her, even better is the characters. I actually, and I've read some hit or miss reviews on this, I actually really like her creativity and her character development. They're not always just traditional characters. You kind of get a lot of interesting things going on with some of the people she puts in her books. And I really like it. And I find that with each book that I read, the characters progress, and I feel like I'm getting to know them more each book. It's not like you have to read the first book if you want to know the characters and then they're just kind of there and there's maybe some stories going on. You actually learn backstory on these characters each iteration of them in the series. So for some reason I get really drawn into that and I like it a lot. All 3 are good in their own way. I think Crimson Lake probably has, as far as storyline, has the best overarching storyline. But Gone by Midnight had, like, that one for me, the characters in it were just phenomenal. I felt like I was watching, some drama on TV. But the overarching story is a little lackluster in that one, I will say. And then she does have another series. So Candace Fox, this is where it gets weird for me. Love the series, the Crimson Lake series. She has another one called Archer and Bennett. I think there's 3 in that series. And I'm pretty sure it's set in Australia. I think it's like in Sydney or Melbourne. It's more set in a city and they're like detectives. And I haven't touched one of them. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I have this image that they're going to be more like police, driven stories. I think they're police detectives. And I don't necessarily always like those kind of stories. So maybe that's why I shy away from it. I don't know. For some reason, the synopsis of that series isn't grabbing me enough to kind of pick it up yet. I might at some point. I'll probably check it out. But just so if you like her and you want to try another series of hers, she does have that one, Archer and Bennett. She has a new standalone book coming out this month in Australia. I've managed to figure out a way to get the Kindle version of it, so I will get it early. It's not due out in the US until, they haven't even announced the date. It'll be later, the end of the year probably. But that one, again, it's not actually set in the US. It says in the synopsis it's set in, I think, LA. So I'm only bringing it up because she does write books in the genre. I would put this new book that's coming out outside the genre. But I wanted to bring it up just in case you got into her and you wanted to check out some other ones. I have forgotten the name of it already. I will put a picture of it up for you. But anyways, and then she does have a bunch of books, I think a series and then a standalone that she co-wrote with James Patterson. I have not read those yet either. So, but again, I don't think that they're set in Australia, or maybe the series is. I'm not even very sure on that. I did pick up the first two in the series she wrote with him. I just happened to find them at like Goodwill in the last couple weeks. So anyways, on to our next author, Emma Viskich. She wrote a series called the Caleb Zellick series, and again, there's 3 in the series. This is another one where it's kind of funny. I've read them. I haven't read the third one. The third one is just out in Australia. Again, I ordered it on the Kindle. In fact, I didn't even know it was out until I was looking up, the names of the books, kind of refreshing my mind for this video. And I saw that the third one had come out. And I went to get it and realized it was only out in Australia, so haven't had a chance to read it yet, just got it. But anyways, the interesting thing about this series is the protagonist in it is a deaf man. Now, when I read the synopsis about that, I thought it was a little strange, only in that I wasn't sure how that would translate into a book, I wasn't sure if it literally just, instead of saying, this man said, it would say this man signed, and then the words of what he was saying, So, I just wasn't sure if it would be a shallow translation into how the deaf population kind of communicate. And so it kind of weirded me out a little bit, but I decided to give it a chance, and actually that aspect of it, she did a phenomenal job. I will give her kudos all day. It translates really well, and I thought, yeah, she did a great job. The stories are good, each book of the 2 that I've read, they were good. I enjoyed them a lot. I will say there's more of a romance focus, especially in the first book, than I typically like in my books. So for me, that, was kind of a bummer. But if you like that sort of thing, if you like the romance side to your character development, then you may very well enjoy that. For me, I just find I find it unnecessary most of the time, unless it's very, sort of surface level casual, love interest so much. But this had a big focus was on this relationship that this man had. So just go into it knowing that. It didn't make me not like the book. It just, was kind of all right, we're back to talking about this type of thing for me. So, but I enjoyed it, and I'll read the 3rd book very soon. Now, the next one, when I read Chris Hammer's Scrublands, I thought it was a standalone book, and I actually really, really liked it. And it's a little bit bigger book than I normally read. I think it's pushing 500 pages. Not that that's that big of a book. I just tend to lose interest unless it's kind of fast moving. I tend to lose interest in books that are that long. I need them to move a little quicker. But I did not, in fact, when I went back and I looked, I was like, oh gosh, I don't remember it being that long. So who knew? But it's really good. This one is set in outback country town, middle of nowhere, Australia. And I actually thought it was very well written. And when I saw that it was actually a series and a second one has come out called It's Silver, and I think it came out fairly recently, like in the fall. So I have no idea how I missed that. But I'm super excited to read the second one now. And I think I probably prefer that series to the Caleb Zellick series by Emma Viskich. So, you know, if I was going to rank them, it'd probably be Jane Harper, Candace Fox, Chris Hammer, Emma Viskich, as far as my author order would go at this point. But yeah, really good book, hopefully a good series. Now, the next one I will bring up, I'm only going to talk about because this author shows up on all the lists. In fact, this book shows up on all the lists to read if you're into this genre. I read it personally. I don't know. It's called The Nowhere Child by Christian White, and it's not that the book was bad. It wasn't bad. It wasn't probably my favorite, but it was primarily set in the US. Now, it did have Australian ties. It kind of starts in Australia, but only very briefly. And then you're, thrown into the US and you're there. You're there for pretty much the whole rest of the book. And so for me, it didn't quite fit the genre, what I look for in it. And the book was fine. That's about it. I think Christian White has it in him to make a really good book. I don't think he's a bad author. I'm not saying that at all. It's just the book for me just wasn't really that great compared to some of the others that I've read on this list. So, and then there's another author that shows up a lot. I have not read any of his books, and I think I don't even know why. I think that the Charlie Berlin series by Jeffrey McEachin gets a lot of really good reviews, and I suspect they're really well written books. For some reason, they're set in 1950s Melbourne. And I don't know if that's what's sort of making me hesitate. I don't know if I'm just right now maybe in the genre looking for more stories that feel more current than doing sort of a time hop. I'm not sure. I can't explain it. Something, every time I look at it and I think about it, I'm like, don't know that I feel like it. One of these days I will get stuck into it. There's 3 in the series, and like I say, gets good reviews. I hear good things. So yeah, if you've read his stuff, I'd love to hear what you think. If I should make the dive, or if it maybe isn't fitting in with some of the rest of these. Yeah, because I feel a bit on the fence there with that one. And then the last author, this one I don't even know what to say. I've not read her books, but she shows up on some lists, not always. It's sort of hit or miss whether they put her on. And super popular, and I'm probably going to say her name wrong. It's Liane Mortieri. Everyone knows her, right? The Husband's Secret, Big Little Lies. I don't even know what else. I've read none of them because when I read their synopsis, to me, they sound more like sort of chick lit type books, you know, and that's super not my thing. So I don't know if they're adding her on the list simply because she's an Australian author. And so they're trying to like throw her into this bucket on very, you know, minimal sort of criteria there. Or if some of these stories actually fit into that sort of genre of, you know, mystery, thriller, suspense, and I'm just missing the point of her books. So not sure what to think on that one, but thought I would throw it out there in case you guys had any thoughts or opinions, can kind of direct me towards or away from some of these. Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. In fact, if you have read any of them in this series, or if you're into the genre, just new to it, I would really like to have some discussion about this, because I feel like every time I bring it up with someone, they look at me cross-eyed, like I've made it up. And I swear to you, it's out there. It's on the internet. So, and you know, given that there's so many, even more recently, that have been written in the same sort of thread, I have to believe that, you know, it's popular somewhere. People are reading it, not just me. So, yeah, and if you want more detailed reviews on any of the books or the series, just let me know. I'm happy to do a more detailed dive into any one of them. But for today, I just wanted to do sort of a general overview of the books that I've read that sort of fit in this subgenre, because I am really obsessed. Like, I've blown through all of these books probably in the last year, maybe just over a year. And I don't know what that says about me. But anyways, throw your thoughts below. Would love to hear them. And thanks for tuning in today, and I will catch you next time. Bye.